After nearly 2 decades of anticipation, we are now less than a week out from the release of Metroid Prime 4. However, only one of the previous Metroid games has come to current consoles, so a lot of people haven't gotten to catch up on them, and maybe feel a little behind. If that's you, then no need to worry. This video is entirely about what you missed in the previous Metroid Prime games and what you need to know to prepare for Metroid Prime 4. Spoilers ahead for every previous Metroid Prime title, except for Prime Pinball, I guess. I also talk some about Zero Mission, Samus Returns, Metroid Fusion, and Other M. Now, most of the planets featured in the Metroid series are under the purview of the interplanetary alliance known as the Galactic Federation. They are a large governing body with a shared military, ruling council, and associated cultures. They are not the only form of political power in the universe, however, as other groups do exist, such as the Kraken Empire, which is actually a group that I can see being featured more heavily in a future Prime title, though I doubt they'll be relevant here. More important in the game at hand, however, are the Space Pirates. They are another interplanetary alliance whose origins are never stated, but I imagine they began as a small group of disconnected raiders who banded together to survive against the rising might of the Galactic Federation. The exact structure of their government isn't clear, other than that their ruling body is a shadowy cabal known as High Command. Other commanders exist below High Command, such as Mother Brain, King Key Hunter, and of course, Ridley. For now, let's focus on the actions of Ridley. Known as He Who Cheats the God of Death, Ridley is one of the most ruthless and feared figures in the universe. It was under his command that the space pirate hordes exterminated an entire Federation colony on the planet K2L. The first responders to the distress beacon, the Chozo of the planet Zebes, were met with a bloodbath. The colonists had been massacred, leaving only one survivor, a young human girl by the name of Samus Aran. The child was adopted by the Chozo, who raised her to become the ultimate warrior, skilled in combat and wielding the most powerful technology that the Chozo could provide. They built her power armor to augment her abilities, designed to resemble their own god of war. When Samus came of age, she left the Chozo to join the Galactic Federation army, and served for some time under the authority of Commander Adam Malkovich. After the traumatic death of Malkovich's younger brother Ian, Samus left the army to become an independent bounty hunter, though one who still held some loyalty to the Federation. During her time away from Zebes, a tragedy occurred. Mother Brain, a Chozo-designed supercomputer, turned against her creators, summoning the space pirates to their home. Much like the colonists of K2L, the Chozo were slaughtered, and the pirates present fell under the sway of the telepathic Mother Brain. On another former Chozo world, SR-388, a group of Galactic Federation scientists discovered another Chozo creation, the artificial parasitic lifeforms known as Metroids. The Metroids had been created to keep yet another parasitic species at bay, but had evolved faster than their creators expected. Running theories suggest that the Metroids wiped the SR-388 Chozo off the map. However, on their return trip, the research convoy was attacked by space pirates, who stole the Metroid specimens and rerouted them to Zebes. There, they hoped to turn these life-absorbing creatures into an unstoppable army. The Galactic Federation, realizing the potential danger of these experiments, knew that they needed to retrieve or destroy the Metroid specimens. However, the pirates' defenses made a full-on assault impossible. The Federation decided to take on a highly unlikely last-ditch plan: contact a single powerful combatant with loyalty to the Federation and knowledge of Zebes, and send that one-person army to rout the space pirates. Only one person could possibly complete that mission: Samus Aran. Against all odds, Samus managed to do just that, killing every Metroid on Zebes and destroying a number of space pirate facilities, crippling their forces. For this mission, Samus would gain immense renown, becoming mythologized in her own time. The Federation saw Samus as a hero, while instead the space pirates saw her as a demon, referring to her in hushed tones as simply the Hunter. One Zebesian vessel managed to escape this fate, a research vessel called the Frigate Orpheum, which was experimenting with the Metroids and a powerful new substance that they had discovered, called Phazon. Phazon has its origins on Phase, a sentient, hive-minded planet hundreds of thousands of light years from the space where the space pirates and Federation existed. Desiring to spread its influence, Phase created the Leviathans, large asteroids holding immense amounts of Phazon, as well as Phazon-producing cores, to distant worlds, in order to plant the seeds of an eventual universal takeover. When these Phazon seeds eventually made contact with other planets, they infected the current ecosystem with Phazon, mutating both the planet and its inhabitants to better fit the desires of Phase. Any creatures that were infected by Phazon would also join the hive mind of Phase. Among these infected planets was Talon 4, yet another Chozo planet. Each seed took one powerful local life form and turned it into a guardian, in order to protect the seed and its contents. On Talon 4, this guardian was a Queen Metroid, who was mutated into the monstrous form of the Metroid Prime. It was this planet the frigate Orpheon escaped to, and they founded a research colony there. After one of their experiments went awry, Samus followed the frigate's distress beacon to Talon, and became determined to wipe out the remaining pirates on the planet. During her exploration, Samus learned about the planet's Phazon corruption, eventually entering the Leviathan and fighting the Metroid Prime. However, Samus would not kill the Prime. Using the Metroid's inherent energy absorption abilities, the near-death Metroid Prime merged with Samus' Phazon suit, becoming the figure known as Dark Samus. Dark Samus would travel to the locations of the other Leviathan, including the planets Aether, Brio, Elysia, and Artrachus, the latter of which being a space pirate homeworld. On her travels, Dark Samus brought a large swath of the space pirate hordes under her thrall, feeding them Phazon until they formed a cult worshipping the Dark Hunter. Her powerful will overwhelmed the Phase hive mind, bringing every being within it under her control as the Queen of Phase. Samus would follow her dark counterpart, finding and destroying each Leviathan that she came across, before following Dark Samus back to Phase itself, where she destroyed the planet, its queen, and every remaining ounce of Phazon in the universe. I know, it kinda seems like I skimmed over the events of Metroid Primes 1 through 3, the games that this one's a sequel to. But the reality is just that the events of those games isn't really important to Metroid Prime 4. Instead, it's really a sequel to two other games. The first of these is Metroid Prime Hunters, which takes place between Prime 1 and 2. In this game, bounty hunters from throughout the universe were summoned to the Olympic Cluster, a series of planets that were once home to a species even more ancient and advanced than the Chozo, called the Olympics. Long ago, the Olympics were destroyed by an eldritch abomination known as Garia. Afraid that this creature that had slaughtered their entire race would do the same to countless other worlds, the last few Olympics sealed Garia inside the Oubliette, a prison existing between dimensions, where the rest of the universe could be kept safe. The door to the Oubliette was kept shut by an item known as the Seal Sphere. Over the course of centuries, however, the seal on Garia weakened, allowing it to send messages out across the universe. Desiring to be set free, it offered ultimate power to anyone who could undo the Seal Sphere, though it had every intention of killing anyone that it came in contact with. The promise of power summoned bounty hunters from throughout the universe. This included, of course, Samus Aran, who will always come at the first sign of trouble. The only other hunter relevant to Prime 4 was Sylux. Exactly who or what Sylux is isn't clear. All that we know about him is that he hates the Galactic Federation, and by extension their lapdog Samus, with a burning passion. This personal hatred of Samus is shown in the ending of Metroid Prime 3, where he stalks the bounty hunter as she leaves for her next mission. The equipment he uses seems to be prototype Galactic Federation technology, which he likely stole from a Federation lab. In Prime Hunters, he's stated to have his origins on the planet Sylosis, though whether this is his home planet or simply where the Federation first became aware of him is unclear. Interestingly, his suit and weaponry is very similar to Samus's. This is likely intentional. Both the Space Pirates and the Galactic Federation have shown interest in recreating Samus's power armor and weapons for their own purposes. Sylux's equipment is likely the fruits of that labor. After the events of Prime 3, the Galactic Federation would try again to copy Samus's abilities, creating Operation Goblin. While they couldn't shrink the form factor to match Samus's suit, they did manage to create larger mechs with many of Samus's abilities, which would be tested using an elite team of Marines known as the Federation Force, under the command of General Alex Miles. The prototype suits were used on missions in the Bermuda system, facing off against the space pirates who had set up shop in the area. On one of these missions, the Federation Force discovered a collection of Metroid eggs, which the space pirates had held onto in hopes of returning their plans for a Metroid army. But Miles didn't send those soldiers out to destroy the eggs. Instead, she wanted them to be collected. That's because, in reality, the Federation is far from united, and not exactly benevolent either. Much like the space pirates, A group within the Federation army wanted to weaponize the Metroids into an unstoppable army. This desire led to the creation of Project Metroid Warriors, which hoped to create easily controlled Metroids that were immune to anything, even their one built-in weakness, the cold. These Metroids would be virtually unstoppable. It was to these ends that Adam Malkovich and a number of his squad mates would be killed. This is only one of many immoral experiments carried out by the Federation. Even after Samus revealed the conspiracy to the rest of the Federation, and its conspirators were jailed, the other groups within the Federation still desired Metroid Warriors, and recreated their experiments on another research station, nearly dooming the entire universe in the process. In Metroid Prime 3, the Federation also experimented on Samus and 3 other bounty hunters against their wills, infusing them with experimental phazon enhancement devices. While they were told that the purpose of this addition was to control the phazon that had infected their bodies, the reality was that the Federation was turning these bounty hunters into prototype living weapons. However, the power of phazon overwhelmed the other 3 hunters, causing them to join the Phase hive mind and forcing Samus to execute her former allies. The game's subtitle, Corruption, refers not only to phazon corruption, but also the corruption of the Galactic Federation itself, which treated Samus and the other hunters like pawns in their own game of mass destruction. So maybe Salix's hatred of the Federation isn't entirely unjustified. However, the Galactic Federation never got to experiment on those Metroid eggs. After they delivered it to a Federation laboratory, Salix broke into the lab and hatched one of the Metroid eggs. The larva likely imprinted on him, much like the baby Metroid would later do to Samus in Samus Returns, and became subservient to its new quote-unquote parent. After the events of that game, Salix formed a pact with the Space Pirates, and together they cloned Salix's Metroids to create a new breed. These new Metroids look similar to Mocktroids, the Metroid clones that were created by Space Pirates in Super Metroid. However, unlike the Mocktroids, these Metroids are completely subservient to Salix, likely because they too have imprinted on him. These new Metroids also have their own power, the ability to mind control and enhance other living beings, as we see in the pre-release footage of this game. The exact origin of this ability is unclear, but it likely comes either from Salix or else is related to Vuros, the main setting of Metroid Prime 4. Vuros is home to the Lemorn, another ancient race that seems to have died out. It's through using their technology and monuments that Samus gains her new psychic abilities. I could also see these powers being related to the Metroid's new mind control abilities. However, pre-release materials imply that the Lemorn may have their own hidden agenda, and could prove to be a danger to Samus and the rest of the universe. But exactly what they want is still unclear, so I guess we'll have to wait for the game to release and see for ourselves. And that's it. That's everything you need to know before playing Metroid Prime 4. Now I want you to go down in the comments and I want you to tell me your theories. Who do you think Salix is? What's his backstory? What's going on with the Lemorn? I want to hear all of it. And if you're interested in talking more about the game when it releases, I will be opening a spoiler discussion in my Discord server, so feel free to pop in there. And with that, I guess I'll let you guys go. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.